I'm Susan McGinnis with Clean Skies News. We're at the G-20 Summit in Pittsburgh at the August Wilson Center, talking now with Miles Grant, who is with the National Wildlife Federation, also a contributor to grist.org. Miles, good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about the National Wildlife Federation and how your mission or goals can be furthered here at the G20.
Well, I think Pittsburgh is just such a unique city, and Pennsylvania is such a unique state when we talk about clean energy, that the G20 being here is just a great example for the rest of the world. That I think a lot of cities that were in Pittsburgh's shoes back in the 70s, back in the 80s, dealing with pollution from polluting industries, had two different roads they could have gone down. One is trying to cling to those energy sources of the past, or try to look to new industries and look to the future. I think Pittsburgh really embraced that chance to reinvent itself as a city with green jobs. And I think it's a great example for the G20 as it looks to as we look globally, that people are really reluctant to move away from those old energy sources that we've relied upon in the past. But Pittsburgh is a great example that you can do it while creating jobs, not losing them.
And that's one of your big goals, is to get the word out there. What are you guys doing here at the G20 to gather, to grab attention?
Absolutely. We're doing our best to connect local Pittsburgh people who have gotten new jobs in the clean energy industry with some of the delegates here and with some of the leaders from around the country and here in Pennsylvania who gathered here in Pittsburgh, to try to let them know that the jobs are here. This is the example. And if the United States shows leadership to the rest of the world, hopefully we can create a new energy economy globally.
So these 20 leaders are here to discuss a lot of financing issues, and they certainly have a lot else on their plate other than climate change. What kinds of issues regarding climate change do you hope and think will be addressed here, need to be addressed here?
Certainly. Well, we're very happy that President Obama gets it on clean energy, that when we look at the global crisis, one of the ways that we're going to dig our way out of it is with a green shovel. And when we look at the investments we're going to need to make to get out of the financial crisis, one of those can be in clean energy. It can create jobs, provide people with affordable energy at a time of crisis.
Okay, so also, do you think these ministers need to address issues like mitigation adaptation? Is that something you guys are pushing for here? Or is their agenda too crowded for specifics?
I think it's got to be part of any plan, and I think it's not too early to be talking about those things. That we are feeling the effects of global warming already. Wintertime temperatures in Alaska have already gone up 6 degrees. How are we going to be adapting to those things as we move forward? And certainly the United States is just one of the countries facing those problems.
You're talking a lot about for developing nations to try to adapt and react to these kinds of impacts, droughts, sea levels. All the headlines are becoming more and more urgent. What do you think is needed? What do you think can be accomplished? There's these 2 days. There's a few more UN talks leading up to December in Copenhagen. How optimistic are you?
Well, I think, whether we're going to be optimistic or pessimistic is going to come out of what happens in the Senate. It's certainly not the only way the United States can show leadership, but the Senate passing a strong clean energy and climate bill would show the rest of the world that the United States is committed to taking a leadership role.
But do we need solid agreements here in Pittsburgh to achieve that in Copenhagen?
I think you're seeing a lot of talk this week. You're seeing President Obama and the President of China talking yesterday about, we definitely want to cut emissions, but you're not going to hear a number come out of our mouths yet. I think a lot of countries around the world are looking to the United States to come out with those numbers before they'll follow our lead.
And specifically, are you guys hoping for different agreements eventually, when we do get down to the nitty-gritty, coping mechanisms for different kinds of wildlife around the world to try to adapt and cope with the effects?
Certainly, and some of the things that we talk about in terms of benefiting wildlife, benefiting local environments, can also benefit local peoples. When we talk about working with Brazil to preserve the rainforest, we see that as an economic net for nations like that.
And the slow pace of action, I guess I'll call it, so far, does it trouble you, or are you pleased with what you've seen so far?
I think big hard changes don't come quickly, and I think people are still getting used to the idea that we are coming off this financial crisis. There are going to be big changes that are going to be coming. I think they don't have to happen today, but I think you are seeing changes in rhetoric even that will foreshadow changes in policy.
All right, Miles Grant, National Wildlife Federation, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you back in D.C.?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I'm Susan McGinnis in Pittsburgh at the G20 Summit, the August Wilson Center for Clean Skies News.